Okay, we can go ahead and get started, and then people can join in as they can. Thank you all who are already on the call for joining us for UC Young Professionals' first virtual beer tasting with HighGrain Brewing. And thank you, Brian, for partnering with us on this event. We're very excited. My name is Lauren Breedy. I am the program manager for alumni and donor experience at the UC Alumni Association, and work closely with UC Young Professionals to put on events in person when we're able to do that, and then now virtually, like this one and some webinars that we've done in the months past. As you've noticed, as you entered this event, you are on mute. So if you could stay on mute, unless you have a question, that would be great. You can also use the chat function to ask questions, and I'll be monitoring that as well. This event is going to be recorded, and so we'll send it out to you guys in an email probably within the next week or two. So be on the lookout for that. And before we get started, I have a quick video that I will share with you all. Just give me 1 second here. Okay.
Welcome to today's program, one of many offered by your UC Alumni Association. Before we begin, it's important for me to say thank you for joining us. By actively participating in our offerings and experiences, you are harnessing the power of your alumni network. There are Bearcats all over the world, more than 315,000 alumni in 127 countries, which makes virtual programs like this so rewarding. These challenging times do come with a silver lining. We are more connected than ever before, creating boundless opportunities. The University of Cincinnati and each of you is stronger and better positioned because of our lifelong connections through our alma mater. We love providing opportunities like this one, where alumni can learn, network, and work. So settle in and enjoy today's program. And if you like what you hear today, please share it on social media using the hashtag #ThyLoyalChildren. Thanks again for joining us. Go Bearcats.
Okay, Brian, I'll go ahead and pass it on over to you.
All right. Well, welcome. Thanks for having us. I don't know if, for those of you who have dined with us or had our beer before, I can tell you a little bit about the brewery and who we are and what we do, and then we can get into the beer tasting if that's all right. So we are a sustainable brewery in Cincinnati, been around for about 1.5 years. We focus on sustainability. All our decisions that we make as far as, canning or expansion or what have you, is all based off of sustainability and what we can do to minimize our impact on the environment. When we selected this area and took this building over, it was built in '51. It was an old police station that we rehabbed. We put geothermal system in it for heating and cooling. We also plans for a solar array, but that's a little expensive, especially for a startup. But we try to do our best to give back to the environment. All of our tables and wood trim in the building are made out of reclaimed ash. It's done by Cincinnati Wood Collaborative, which is a local company that focuses on that. Our kitchen is from scratch. We use local products as much as possible. We partnered up with local farms for our vegetables, our proteins, and things to try to minimize, the impact that the trucks have on bringing and shipping out here. We did partner up with 80 Acres in the beginning, which is an in-house greenhouse in Cincinnati as well, that does really good at having a low impact on the environment for growing their crops. We now focusing on trying to grow our brand and canning and getting into different establishments around Cincinnati. So hopefully you can see us at Jungle Gyms. Recently we got into Cappy's, both Cappy's in Loveland and in Norwood as well. And then more to come here in the near future, which has been great. So we get into the beers. Our brewer partner, his name's Matt. He lived in Germany for about 8 years and learned how to brew in Germany. He worked at König Ludwig, which is a big Hefeweizen German-style brewery in Germany that you can find in the States as well. So our beers are old style with a twist. So we try to do true to style, Hefeweizens, ales, lagers, and just put an American spin on it, which we'll talk a little bit about today. So we can start with let's go ahead and start with the Hefeweizen. What I'll do, when I've done these before, we've had 4 or 5 beers, and it's kind of hard to chug a 16 ounce or 12 ounce while I'm speaking and then move on to the next one. And then by the end of it, you don't know which beers you had and you can't see straight. So I'll kind of talk about the beers, go over all of them. You can drink at your leisure and pick which beers you want to start with. So with that is our Hefeweizen. This is a true Bavarian Hefeweizen. I think it's the best Hefeweizen in the city. I might be biased, but I always say that when I sell it, and no one's really disagreed with me. It's a light balance between clove and banana. It's Matt's favorite beer to brew. So it's one that we've been giving to competitions and trying to really push out there. It's a big seller for us as well, as far as in the tap room and cans. So cheers. So light drinking, easy drinking. We do a lot of mixes as well. You can do the raspberry and the Hefeweizen together. It has a really good flavor to it. We have a black and blue sour on the menu that we can mix with the Hefeweizen at the tap. So it just kind of gives it a little bit of a different flavor balance to it. That's very good. Next, I'll move on to sticking with the German styles. We'll go to the Fest beer. So this one we are currently out of. There are some places around town that still have it, but it's a traditional Bavarian Hefeweizen, or I'm sorry, traditional style Fest beer, Oktoberfest, light malt. It's again easy, very smooth, 6.1%, and has a nice flavor to it. It's not as heavy as most Fest beers. As you can see, it's pretty clear as well once you get to it, but it's not too malty either, which I prefer. If you have any questions, please ask. Either send them to me or unmute yourself or whatnot as I go through these. If I'm going too fast, let me know and I can slow down as well. The last one I did, there were 75 people on, so it was a lot of fun to try to navigate all of that.
I have a question. The Fest beer. So, and I guess the Hefeweizen. Is there any specific foods that I know wine always gets paired with foods, but anything?
You can pair beer with food. We are looking into getting into that a little bit more. I think with these being so light and easy drinking, they pretty much would pair with anything. The banana and the clove and the Hefeweizen might kind of take away from more of your spicy or buttery foods, but I think it'll, a nice grilled item, or really pretty much anything with that in the Fest beer. I think of a Fest beer, I think of, bratwurst and schnitzels and just good, wholesome German food, to be honest. But I think you can pretty much pair with anything, even with wine. I'm a big wino myself, and I prefer reds over the whites. And no matter what I'm eating, I'm just going to grab a nice big bold cab anyway, just because that's what I like to drink.
Yeah, same. Cool.
We can move to the Monarch. Monarch's kind of our flagship IPA. It's a juicy IPA. It's 6%. Get a little bit of grapefruit and tangerine. We don't dry hop it or over hop it, so it's not too bitter. It's more juicy, easy drinking in my opinion. We use Citra, Mosaic, and Idaho Gems. We also use a different yeast strain. It's called a Kvik. It's kind of a newer age yeast strain that really eats down those sugars and makes the beer ferment very quickly, but yet it still keeps that flavor profile in it as well. A little hazy in the color and clarity of it, but very easy drinking, very good IPA. I'm not a big IPA fan. I don't like the dry hops or the very bitterness that you get off a lot of them. So this one's a lot easier for me to get down.
I noticed that the Hefeweizen's a little more clear than a lot of other Hefeweizens out there, where they're a lot cloudier. Is there a reason that you guys brew yours that way, or why?
More traditional style. So Matt, he learned in Germany. So we have a 3-vessel brew house. We don't clarify our beer, or we don't have a centrifuge to really get it like some of the bigger breweries do, because we just can't afford it. But what he does is step mash. So he spends a little bit more time, and when he mashes in with the grain and the hot water and the boiling process, to get that more clear, more purity in the beer. Then it spends more time in a fermenter to get some of those imperfections out, to clarify it a little bit more.
It's really delicious. We were in Germany last year and we had some Hefeweizens over there, and it reminds me of some that you see over there. So you can see how he brought his style back. So.
Thank you. It would be very excited to hear that you said that. So lastly, probably one of my favorites is the raspberry. And I'm a huge sour fan. I think if you're into wine, I think you can easily get into sours. We use a different process for our sours. Sours is different yeast strains that you use to sour a beer. It's called infect your brewery, to where everything kind of tastes sour. So there's a newer yeast strain out called Sour VCA that brings off all the flavors and tartness and colors and everything of a sour, but there's no chance of you infecting your brewery, which is very good when you're only a year old and you don't want to be a sour brewery all the time. But it's easy drinking. It's great for the summer. It's a good mixing beer as well. It's not too tart. It's only 3.9%, so you can definitely have 3 or 4 of them and not get too much of a lightheadedness to it. We do use 900 pounds of mixture of raspberry and blackberries fresh in this. So it kind of just gives it a little bit of tartness and color as well. We do have another one on the menu on tap right now that we did can but ran out of. It's a black and blue. It's a blackberry and blueberry that is just as good, if not better, than the raspberry. So nice, good, beautiful color on it. Just a great all-around beer, in my opinion.
So do you guys actually bring in the berries and everything for this?
It was a puree, fresh puree that we got in for it. We want to do ciders, get into that with fresh, like real fresh fruit. We've talked to different people. We're talking to the zoo right now as well. They have the farm out by Hamilton, out 275. Out north, and they are in the process of planting different things, different local berries, local ingredients that we might be able to use in the kitchen and the brewery. So before COVID, we were trying to get that set up and get out there and start talking about ingredients and things that we wanted to use in the brewery and the kitchen, and everything kind of shut that down. But we're trying to get back with them to get involved with that again. Mm-hmm. So as we are partnered up with them at the Hop Gardens, we have our beer on tap at their new Hop Beer Garden.
Which beer would you say is your most popular beer?
The Monarch and a Hefeweizen sell really well. As well as the raspberry. Probably the Monarch is, outside of the brewery and on draft is probably our most popular. I mean, Cincinnati loves their IPA, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Brian, you guys said you opened your doors around, was it summer 2019? Did I miss here, or?
Yeah, it was Memorial Day weekend last year.
Okay, so I guess on a more topical side of things, I obviously we're all living in this Corona-centric environment, but you pretty much we're, I guess, whatever, 6 months into things, a little over that, when it all started. I mean, we know that the Corona, mentality has spiked a little bit of drinking here and there when things have opened back up, but have you seen a increase, a decrease? Has it been kind of neutral? Everything's kind of stayed the same? Like, how has it impacted the actual operations, knowing that you're a newer business?
For us, we never really had a plan to can. We always, when we were doing our investor deck and trying to get people to invest in this, our big thing was, the Kroger shelves are flooded with beer. So we want to do multiple locations in different areas, like Silverton, just different communities that we could be their local neighborhood brewery. And once COVID hit, we had to pivot to make sure that we could survive. So we started canning and getting out there and selling the beer. And, it's a good product, so everybody loves it. So we continue to grow in sales on the canning line, which helped us survive. As far as in-house, obviously we were shut down. We did to-go beer. We have a takeout window that people could come up and get crowlers and cans and all of that. We closed our kitchen down until we were able to open up the dining room. And it's been sporadic. We're down probably about 10 to 15% over last year at this time. And some weeks we do great. Some other weeks, it's not so great. So we're trying to see what to do, next week when we feel, DeWine's going to shut stuff down again, and how we can pivot again to, do takeout, better family meals and things that, we can sell while our dining room is shut down.
Thank you.
What kind of is the process of starting even a brewery? Like, I know you have to get investors. I'm sure you have to pass through some legal checkpoints. Any kind of interested in learning how you started this whole thing?
Well, it obviously everything starts with an idea.
Yeah.
Matt and I met. There's three of us, three owners. Matt and I met years ago. I'm always been in restaurants. Worked in restaurants since I was 15. Managed him at a Mitchell's Fish Market in Westchester, and we've always talked about opening a brewery. And just time went by. We tried to do this about 5 years ago, right after Matt Tree opened, but he was head brewer at Christian Moorline, had a non-compete, and decided to wait until that was over, so there wasn't a legal issue for us to, move forward with something. Got with our other partner, Josh, who worked at P&G and Simple Truth for Kroger. It was all about branding, marketing, and all of that. So we put our heads together, and for about 2.5 years, we just started planning, talking to friends and family, looking at different locations, and just trying to figure out, what we wanted HighGrain to be and how we wanted to get there. And as far as that goes, we made an investor deck that kind of explained our plan, our logo, our brand, what type of food we wanted to do, and what we, were inspiring to be. Sustainability obviously was on the forefront of that, and just went and talked to people we knew that had money and that wanted to, to be a part of it, and it worked out legally. Formed an LLC. We got with a lawyer, and he helped us form an LLC, helped do our business plan, and write up the subscriptions for the investors to go into. And then, legally, as far as the brewery side of things, we had to go through the TTB. We had to submit our plan. After the plan was submitted and we were able to, somewhat open, or at least begin to brew, they came out and looked over everything to make sure it was up to par and what they wanted. And then they, gave us their stamp of approval, and then we were able to brew.
Wow. It's pretty cool. And had you ever brewed? I don't know if you said brewed just in your basement at any time before.
on up.
Brian, what's your favorite brew or beer to brew?
Here.
Hey, Brian, you're getting kind of choppy.
One.
Yep, you're good.
I thought it might have been me. I signed out.
All right, let's. Oh, he's back.
Any better. We had a chocolate blonde stout on that was incredible. Great color, great flavor. Sold really well. So we're going to end up doing that next month. I think that's going to be a good seller. But that was my favorite beer that we had on the menu. I helped a little bit with the brewing process on that. But I think if you ask Matt which beer he loved to brew best, it would be the Hefeweizen.
What's the hardest?
The bigger beers, the higher alcohol beers, the 9%ers, the 10%ers, 11%ers, it takes a lot of grain to be able to get that high percentage out because you're pulling it, as much sugar as possible out of the grain so that when it ferments down, it has a higher alcohol content. So to be able to do that, you're constantly purging the grain to pull all the sugars out through the bottom of the tank. And it's just a long, involved process. Last year we made an oyster stout. It's called All Shucks. We took live fresh oysters and made a stout out of it. It was a very unique flavor. It wasn't too gimmicky, if that makes sense. It didn't have that much of a fish flavor to it or an oyster flavor to it, but you did pick up a little bit of salinity in it. But that one was probably the hardest brew that we had brewed here. I mean, it was a good 9-10 hour brew day for Matt. Wasn't too happy about that at the end of the day, but it worked out. We have 9 barrels right now, new riff barrels that we're aging the oyster stout in. So that should be interesting.
When are those ready? So I want to try that.
Probably around March of next year. So we think it's going to take a year, but we have no idea what it's going to turn out like.
That sounds unique. I'd be interested to try that.
There wasn't a plan to barrel age them, but it was literally we had an Oysterfest weekend the week of shutdown. So we had a bunch of stout sitting in kegs, and we're like, let's just throw it in barrels and see what happens to it.
What do you do with all the grain or the oysters after they're done? Are they able to be eaten or?
The oysters, no. We had to pitch all of that, but we donate our grain to local farmers for their cattle, for whatever they can pick it up and utilize it. There are companies that are working on now. There's a small company in Cincinnati that's trying to get rolling. That is, they're developing an anaerobic digester that could basically come and make a route to 5 or 6 different breweries and take the grain back to their facility and turn that into energy. So we are interested in that, but not 100% sure on if and when that's going to start up.
Do you guys have sour beers year round, or do you guys just keep those seasonally?
We've had it pretty much all the time. The raspberry's been a staple since we've opened. And then the black and blue and the others are just kind of sporadic. I know we're going to probably change up the raspberry just because it's been on so long and try to do something different. But we've always had some good, easy drinking sours on.
Yeah, the raspberry one is very good.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, sorry if you covered this before when you were talking. I had a dog barking for a second, but is distribution right now, is it local to Cincinnati or like the tri-state area for canning? Is it just kind of around here, or do you have like any plans to basically expand it, or is it more? I know you're saying you kind of weren't even planning to go that route originally, so I didn't know if you, now that you got it, if you're trying to expand it or if it's kind of a wait and see.
Our goal right now is to just focus on Cincinnati. We are just like every other brewery. We're going to have a bottleneck of space for tank and for cooler space. So right now our goal is to focus on Cincinnati, focus on some of the bigger retailers. And then once that, pans out, then we can kind of focus on expanding a little bit more. I think we'd stay in Ohio, hit up Dayton and Columbus, before we go elsewhere. Kentucky, you can't self-distribute, which is what we're doing now. Which we would want to continue to do as long as possible, just because the distributors like to take a huge portion of your profit, as they need to pay their people as well, but it's a lot.
Speaking of canning and distribution, I've got a lot of family up in Michigan. Do you guys sell a lot of your cans at your location? Thinking about picking some up before I go up for Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, we have everything we offer. We sell in-house at the tap room as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
My roommate and I mixed the sour with the Hefeweizen, and it's very good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was definitely our summer COVID beer while we were passing, selling cans and stuff out the window.
Yeah.
So a lot of Hefe raspberry that was being consumed.
Yes.
Yeah. So wait, Brian, is the Hefe raspberry the only combo that we can do with these four that is like commonly, the off menu combos, or is there anything else out of these four that would be a interesting mix?
I mean, I think the raspberry and the Monarch, I've never done it, would probably be interesting just because you get the raspberry with the, pineapple flavor. But I've never tried it. I don't think the fest beer would do well with anything mixed in with it.
Did you find that like combination by accident, or was that a planned thing?
We just kind of were bored, so we just started, mixing the sours with different beers just to see what would come of it. It wasn't like a suicide thing where we, put all the taps in the glass and started drinking, but we thought it would be good to make some of the sours, because we had that black and blue that we still have on tap was a good mixer with a few of them. So
yeah, mixing Bud Light and Miller Lite doesn't make anything good.
Yeah. The lagers and IPAs, you just kind of want to keep it to itself.
Okay, so here's another how do I start a brewery question. So like how do you clean your tanks in the back, and how important is it to keep like all bacteria out of there? Is there like a certain level of cleanliness you got to be?
Well, it's highly important, and the reason is anything that gets in those tanks airborne can sour a beer. A lot of gozas, German, Belgian style gozas and sours are made by open fermentation, which means they have a big tank on their roof and they leave it open, and the air that passes over it, yeast strains, just wild yeast, get into the tanks and it sours the beer. So for us, we have chemicals, caustic chemicals that we use to clean the tanks and sanitize them before we obviously fill them up. There is a way that we try to reclaim as much water as possible out of that process. because having a brewery and trying to be sustainable is difficult because it's I think it's the largest water waste manufacturing out there. The ratio between what your finished product to how much water you actually use. So we try to keep the tanks in a cycle to where if we pull an IPA, we can rinse and sanitize and put another IPA in, rather than having to caustic and chemically clean each tank. But as long as it's sealed and as long as you're constantly rinsing and sanitizing it, it keeps it clean. But to answer your question, is very important, and we try to use as little but as much chemicals as needed to make it work.
Brian, what's the plan for the winter? I know, like with all can't really sit outside when it's 30 degrees. What's the game plan?
We did get a tent. We rented a tent with sides on it and a heater.
Right by CVS. I saw that.
Yeah, so we're hoping that we can utilize that. We're going to make a makeshift flashing thing between the doors and the beginning of the tent to try to keep the air from coming in. We also spent some money on some really nice plexiglass barriers in the restaurant and at the bar that hopefully will try to help and to try to counteract that. And then also just takeout. We're going to focus on family meals and trying to push takeout and carry out as much as possible. It's interesting that in my mind, we got the tent's been working, but you're still inside, so is that still safe? It's still the same air circulating. So it's going to be interesting over the next few months to see what happens and what we can and cannot do.
I was going to say one of those things that's almost out of your control, really.
Yeah. I mean, you like we did before, we just have to pivot and try to figure out what's going to make the best possible way for us to just sustain and continue.
Oh, yeah.
So we have the building is still owned by the village of Silverton. So we have a great, relationship with them, which helps us to, kind of navigate these times to where we're not looking at, are we going to get evicted or not? So that really helps us out.
You got the
well.
inside scoop there for sure.
Right.
How many beers do you guys have on tap currently? And have a certain flagship beers that you guys consider your core?
Yeah, we have, I want to say 16 on tap right now. And we have one more. We'll have 17 by the end of the week. We usually keep around 13 beers on tap. We do offer full liquor and wine as well, just FYI. But as far as our flagships, the Monarch, which we're drinking, the IPA, the Hefeweizen, and we have a Super Trooper, which is a double IPA that sells and that's been on pretty much all the time. And then we have a Mexican lager, which is just a regular, very easy 5.4% lager that we, it's one of our flagships. It's one of our biggest sellers as well.
So I often hear a lot of the advertisements, talk about a German style or a Mexican style. And, usually I'm just okay, is it we'll drink it? What is the difference between a German style or a Belgian or a Mexican or anything like that?
Well, our Mexican lager is made with corn, which is the biggest difference on it. German styles, they follow the purity law, so that's a little bit different than most. Belgians, it's really just the yeast strain for Belgians. It's a Belgian yeast strain, so it gives that flavor, that kind of earthy. I'm gonna try to describe it. Just kind of the earthy flavor that you get out of a lot of Belgian beers. That falls on the yeast strain. I think the lager is more of that. Majority of them are made with corn.
Brian, who does the artwork? I'm interested in the design. That's why I do. But is that internal or?
Yes. Yeah, my partner Josh, Yeah, you can sit anywhere. We'll have servers come out. My partner Josh has done all the graphic design. We also have I guess you'd call him an intern. That's been helping us out with our logos and everything else. He's kind of helped out with different can designs as well. So we try to make it to where it's not overdone, but if you're looking at, a line of 50 different breweries, we kind of want ours to stick out, kind of want to, show the style and not really the brewery as much. If you're a lager fan or an IPA fan or a Fest beer fan, when you walk by the aisles, you see, that Fest beer lager logo more than the HighGrain logo, which I think draws the eye better than seeing the logo. I mean, people don't know who we are. So we want people to see the beer and know what the beer is and then figure out who we are. Seems to be working out pretty well.
Yeah, I like this one the best. Pretty funky.
You have some different ones coming out that are worked out pretty well. We have our first bourbon barrel being released Black Friday, and that can is beautiful. So it's 9.7% Imperial Stout that we aged in Eagle Rare barrels for a year, and it's going to be. I think it's going to be good. We have about 60 cases of it, so it's very limited. We'll have kegs of it in house as well, so it should be a fun deal. But it's very smooth, not too hot at all. You still get the bourbon flavor in it, but it's a very easy drinking 11.5%, 12%er.
We have some Eagle Rare fans in our family. How long is that planned on being canned?
No idea. We're releasing it Black Friday, and we're trying to push it. We've done a little bit of different teaser photos on Instagram and on social media. So we're hoping that it goes quick, honestly, because that's a big moneymaker for us, especially during these times. But, I don't know the longevity of it considering how many cases we have. And, if we'd love for it to be some type of Listerman release, but we're not, as big as Listerman is to be able to get people wrapped around their building waiting for a good beer to come out. So.
So is your Black Friday sale available now?
No, it'll be released on Black Friday.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for Brian?
Brian, is there going to be like a Christmas ale or like a winter ale that we can expect around the corner? Because I will say that Great Lake Christmas ale is one of my favorites.
Yeah, we probably won't be doing a Christmas sale. We'll do maybe a winter warmer for January. Christmas sales are usually out by now, and we just didn't have the tank space to make that happen this year. So it might be something we look up in the future, but definitely have some type of winter warmer. I know the Humboldt, the blonde chocolate stout is a great beer for this weather, and that'll definitely be around December time. So should be good.
Yeah, good deal. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
That's good for me.
Yeah, I
Learned a
don't have
lot.
any questions.
Cool.
Thanks a lot, Brian. This is
Yeah,
great.
thank you so much,
Me
Brian.
and Chris are going to start a brewery pretty soon here, so
Yeah.
actually picking your
Better
brain.
watch out, Brian.
Hey, it's a great community. So if that's ever the case, give us a call, walk in, we can help you out, walk you through it. It's a good thing about the breweries that I wasn't aware of until we started planning this, of how friendly and just how cooperative everybody is. We're great friends with Ryan guys. They help us out a lot. With our barrel program, Luke, who runs their basement, their barrel and sour program. He was here a bunch, helping us fill the barrels, tell us what to look for, tell us what to watch out for. Earlier Third Eye Brewing, we're going to be canning for them, and just stuff like that. It's such a great community to be a part of. It is competitive, and there are a ton of them in Cincinnati, but we're all here to help each other out, which is nice.
So that sparks another question for me. HighGrain obviously being your favorite. What's your second favorite brewery in Cincinnati?
Ooh, that's a hard question. There's a lot of beers that I love in Cincinnati. Brink's, Stout, Moozy is phenomenal. Third Eye's got some good stuff coming out right now. Street Side, I love their sours and their different beers that they got coming. Urban Artifact is good as well. They're a little too fruity for me. But I don't know. I think with my relationship that we've built since we've opened, I think Ryan Geist would probably be my second favorite. I know they're the largest, but some of their barrel stuff that's coming out is great. I think Luke's doing a great job there. And no matter how big they get, for us, or at least my opinion and my interactions with them, is they're just very humble and very it's very helpful for everybody.
Brian was, oh, sorry. I was going to say, was HighGrain always going to be in Cincinnati, or were there any other, similarly close, small to medium sized markets that were nearby that you were thinking of taking your business to, or was it always just going to be here?
It was always Cincinnati. I'm from Columbus myself, but Matt and Josh both grew up here, and I've lived here for the last 15, 18 years, so it's always been Cincinnati.
Right. Cool.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Brian, thank you so much for leading us and guiding us through this tasting.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you all for joining us this evening. We hope you enjoyed the beers, and we hope that you'll attend another one of our virtual events in 2021. So be on the lookout for some of those details. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for organizing
Thank
this.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great
See ya.
day.
All right.